Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by Law. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm your host, Cassidy Fowler, and today I'm joined here with Miranda Keefe
and Ethan.
All
Nice.
right, well
All right.
done. All right.
So if you would like to call
All
in
South Fork
oh,
students, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
If-
Okay.
yep.
So what's going on with county?
So wait, they're not really that involved in youth and government. We're not really that connected
You can
this
get some
year.
people over here.
Yeah, we need to get some people over here. Yeah.
Light up those phones.
Yep.
Okay.
So if just for any of our listeners right now, if you'd like to call in at any point of the show, go ahead and call in at 772-220-9788.
You know what's happening Friday, don't you?
Friday? Oh yeah, the
Martin Bowl.
Martin Bowl.
Right.
Yep. And also
South Fork's hosting the Martin Bowl.
yep,
this year.
hopefully we'll win. I have faith in our team this year actually. So
Cool.
Mhm.
Good.
What's like the? Do you
Yep.
have like the overall record for Martin Bowl? Like who's won?
I think they've been even in the last couple of years. I think Martin County's got one or two games up on.
I think
South Fork.
I think freshman year we might have won, but then our sophomore and junior year we might have gotten obliterated.
Just a little bit.
maybe. Yeah. I think that this year though we have a lot of
Right.
football players that are actually from county that transferred over to South Fork for some unknown reason. So
Yeah.
I think we have a chance.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Very
Yep.
good. All right. So we'll look forward to. We'll be airing that game here on WSTU
Ooh, yeah.
live at 7:00.
Definitely
cool.
tune in. I know that
Yeah.
this year with our new principal, he is really implementing the school spirit so much more. So I think that the turnout for
The Martin Bowl.
the Martin Bowl
Yeah.
will be so much more.
Oh,
Like
Yeah, I'm going.
And
yeah, I'm
go
going.
This is the
early
first year
because
I'm
I
gonna go.
understand difficult to get a parking spot.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So basically this year it's actually really cool. Our teacher that's involved in the student government is
Mhm.
actually has established this new tradition that we're going to start at South Fork, and it's going to be a tailgate 2 hours before the game. So all South Fork students are welcomed, and there's just going to be hot dogs
Oh,
and it's like cornhole stuff.
all right. Cool. All
Is
right.
there tickets for that?
No, it's actually free. You have to pay for the food, and that's it. And also, I'm like 85% sure that if you go to that, you don't have to pay for parking.
Okay.
So,
Wow,
yeah.
Nice.
And then what's the price for Martin Bowl tickets?
Great question.
Okay.
Yep.
But it's reasonable.
Oh, it's reasonable,
Worth the
yeah.
price of admission.
Oh, it's
Absolutely.
definitely.
It's going to
like-
be a game.
Oh, it's gonna be a game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely, we're supporting South Fork out here since the majority of us are, all of us are South Fork. So
Yeah.
come
Go
join the South
Bulldogs.
Fork side. Yep.
All right.
All right. So in recent news, we didn't really get a chance to touch on this last week, but Trump is attempting to ban flavored e-cigarettes, and there's a lot of just uproar within the younger community about this because obviously some younger people really love their flavored e-cigarettes. Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that is not discussed, and it should be, is that e-cigarettes it's like a gateway commodity
Mm-hmm.
that does lead to cigarette smoking.
Yeah. And
Is
a lot
it-
of
that's
people
this-
are going back to cigarettes because they think that vaping is so dangerous now.
Really?
Yeah.
I like personally of people that I know that do partake in that, they all like already have the mindset of like refusing to ever smoke cigarettes.
Hmm.
So I really don't believe in that statistic or that fact pertaining to the younger generation.
That's
We-
also my experience.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so basically, well, within the younger population, in my personal belief, I don't think, well, recently we've seen in the news that there's been deaths pertaining to vaping
Correct.
and like lots of hospitalizations and just related cases, illnesses due to vaping.
Hmm.
And most people are pinning this on e-cigarettes.
Mhm.
But in my, not personal experience, but personal knowledge,
Mhm.
is that it's not just e-cigarettes, but it's like mainly a combination of e-cigarettes and a thing called dab pens. So dab pens are cartridges that kids buy off the market, obviously illegally,
Mm.
that they assume is filled with THC oil. But in actuality, since it's not actually, well, in most cases, it's not manufactured by a company. It's made in like somebody's garage or something. It's not actually THC oil. So they're just smoking straight chemicals. They don't really know what they're smoking. In
Yeah.
cases, it's pesticides, even with companies that do.
Antifreeze.
Yep. And in some companies, even, there was a test done to see if pesticides were present within the cartridges. And in many cases, they were.
Yeah, because you think about it, there's like a lot of pesticides already on like the plant itself, but
Yep.
when you distill that all into one thing of oil,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna magnify the effect of
Yeah,
what's
just
in there.
an insane concentration. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like, in my personal knowledge, I think that that's the majority of what. But it's also, I know in recent news that they think that some of these illnesses relating to the e-cigarettes is linked to vitamin E.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's vitamin E is an oil that is actually added to make the fluidity of the product work.
Mm-hmm.
And but it has vitamin E is okay if you ingest it,
Yeah.
as a pill. But when you inhale it, it actually has a very, very negative health effect.
Do you know what that negative health effect
Kills
is?
you.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. All right.
That would be pretty negative. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's very, very unhealthy to inhale vitamin E. And but it's used by these companies because it's an oil.
Mm-hmm. So it helps it be liquid. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how like these cases, like it seems like I'm sure there's been like at least a couple cases like in the past couple of months about these vaping like illnesses, but it seems like it's like really picked up like very recently.
Yeah, I'm surprised even like that is picked up recently, and the growing number every single day of these new cases. I feel like it goes up by 100 almost every single day or two.
Yeah.
And reading articles and such.
Like, do you think they like changed something like in the recipe?
Honestly, that might be it, or it just might be like the accumulation, like the body eventually didn't. Like when it started to grow in popularity, like the e-cigarettes and such, that it just took like a certain amount of time for it to accumulate to a dangerous level within the body.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've seen like people who like got these illnesses, like they're like, yeah, I smoked like 2 Juul pods a day.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it's like very heavy use for like a year or two, but like that's not to say that a lesser amount could do the same thing, because we don't even know what's going on with these chemicals.
Yeah, and I think that that's really a factor that needs to be pushed to the general public, especially younger people, is that we truly don't know the impacts of e-cigarettes or any of these things that kids these days, or just adults in general, are smoking, that we don't know the long-term effects since there hasn't been long-term use. So I think we'll see, even in decades from now, the long-term consequences of doing this, even from a young age.
Yeah, but like the FDA is kind of in like sort of a precarious situation right now, because they have to straddle that line between is it too dangerous to so it causes like a mass panic of people like suing tobacco companies because they feel like they've been cheated, or do you say like we're not sure what it is yet, but we're not even sure like if this is like what we think it is, and then people are just like, oh, I'll just keep using e-cigarettes. You have to like find the balance between those two.
Yeah, I know that Miranda had not a personal story, but a story from a friend relating to the dab pen cartridges and a bad experience relating to the chemicals.
Yeah, my friend who's in my AP statistics class, who's from New Jersey, said that a girl from her school who smoked out of a dab pen actually had a hallucination reaction and had the idea that she was drowning in an ocean.
Oh my goodness.
In the bathroom stall, which sounds
like a school bathroom stall.
Yeah, like a school bathroom. It sounds like so out of line, and extreme. But like, I guess there's some drugs in there that can do that to someone. They had to call the police.
Yeah, you never quite know what you're gonna get when you're getting things off the black market.
Yeah,
I guess.
because you don't actually know the chemicals that are involved.
Or from just like students at your own school. It's not even black market.
Yeah.
Yep, we'll continue this conversation.
Right. We're going to change gears. So last week, to set this up, we've got a caller on the line that the students last week had asked for some professional insight as to what is going on with the Area 51.
Since we know that that's going on tomorrow.
Right. And the Facebook request for 2 million people to show up and what the legal liabilities were. So nothing better than a legal expert. We brought in Sean Plymel. How you doing, Sean?
Great. Thanks for having me on the show. It's always great to hear y'all. I used to be a usual, but I apologize I haven't been on in quite some time.
Yeah, we need to remedy that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, so what do you think about this whole situation with Area 51 and the Facebook post on rushing the gates over there?
So it brings in some interesting questions. And so when you ask just a blanket question of, could he have any civil liability? I think that's too much of a general statement because you can always have civil liability. But it's important to realize that there's limits to that as well. Okay, it's not strict liability, meaning just because he did it, he's automatically responsible no matter what happened. But if it is foreseeable that by his actions he created a dangerous condition and it is foreseeable that something bad would happen, then he certainly would have a potential of, some negligent liability or some liability for negligence. But that doesn't mean that it's automatic. You would still have to prove. So, for example, if I answer the call on the Facebook part of it and I decide to go out in the desert and I'm going to be out there for 2 days and I don't bring any water, well, then that might not be his responsibility. Okay. But the fact that he is kind of selling it as we're going to storm the gates. Yeah. That, he's putting himself in a position that if somebody storms the gates and is injured by it and it was foreseeable that that was going to happen, he could have some liability.
What do you think would be like the potential legal consequences of doing that? Like hypothetically, if it followed through.
And these are federal charges, right?
Well, so we have to make a distinction between criminal liability and civil liability, right? Which is easy to distinguish. One is dollars, the other one is freedom. Okay. He could certainly be in a situation, depending on what his acts are, probably even beyond just the posting, of it. He certainly could have, inciting a riot. There are some criminal statutes. There's both federal and state statutes that he could have liability under, in that situation. But I would think that he has a lot more potential of having civil liability than he does criminal. But every state is different. Nevada could have some very interesting laws, given their long storied history.
Yeah, and I would think like there would be some sort of like level of premeditation, like how that factors into the amount of liability taken, because how long does it take to like just set up a Facebook event? Like just on a whim, you create a Facebook event and that results in all of this damage. Like, would you say that the level of premeditation into like creating this event would factor into like how any civil action would be, if it would affect that?
Yes, because ultimately what the question that's asked to a jury is, was it foreseeable that the damage, be it a personal injury or it could even be property damage, was it foreseeable that that was going to happen? So the time frame of when it happened, if he put out the post yesterday and was expecting 5 people to show up and 2 million showed up, that would be one thing. But the fact that he put it out, an extended period of time before, and he knows that he's getting these types of, volumes of responses, certainly that, changes the analysis of, was it foreseeable? And let's not think about it in some horrible situation, like somebody died or there's some grave personal injury. Let's talk about that it's property damage. I don't know Area 51 that well, but let's say that there is a business that's right outside of Area 51, and he says, let's meet at the Citgo gas station, for us all to meet there. And he knows 2 million people are going to show up. Okay. He could have civil liability with that property owner for damages caused by 2 million people showing up.
Yeah, was the Facebook event set just like the location as Area 51, or was there like
no, it was just vague. We're going to storm Area 51.
There was no like address or anything?
No, I don't think that.
No. And then recently he actually withdrew his request. He said, don't show up. So, so does that absolve him of any liability when he goes and he says, listen, this is a bigger deal than I realized, and I can't manage this, and please don't come. Does that
like
help
reduce
his case?
yeah.
Does that help limit his liability?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He is now put out to there that, hey, this event is canceled.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are not to show up. So what that brings into it is the defense of assumption of the risk, which is there even if he didn't cancel the event.
Right.
But if I know that I am going I'm going cliff diving, okay? If I'm going cliff diving and it's a 65-foot cliff, and I dive off the cliff and I am gravely injured, well, there's certainly the defense of you were diving off of a cliff. That's a dangerous activity. You assumed the risk when you did that. So that certainly bolsters that defense, for him in the situation of people were going, look, I told you this was out of control. I told you not to show up. You then showed up on your own. That is no longer my responsibility.
So
but he'd have to prove that they had notice as well.
Does that, at that point, when he verifies it, like, hey, do not show up, does that eliminate all of his liability, or can he still possibly reap the consequences legally?
Well, that is the beauty of our system. Okay. And it's important to understand the distinction between our system and, say, the system in Brazil. The system in Brazil is a strict by code law. Okay. That means they have a statute, and if you violate that statute, that creates your liability, either criminally or civilly. We operate under a common law question. Okay. So there are no absolutes. There are general precepts in the law, and the facts are put before the jury, and the jury is given the law, and then the jury applies that law to the facts. So there's no absolute get out of jail. It's like everybody always says, well, I signed a release. Okay, well, you can't release away your own negligence. So you can have somebody sign a release that shows that they understood that this was a risky activity or otherwise. So let's take skydiving, for example. Okay, I have you sign a release that says you're jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. You assume some risks in that situation because dangerous things happen. But what if I put in that release that you acknowledge that somebody else packed your parachute and therefore it might not have been properly packed? Okay, and let's say you have a tragic accident because the parachute was not properly packed. Well, if the person who packed the parachute took all the necessary reasonable steps, it's just something that could happen. Well, then they might not be liable. But if the guy that was packing the parachutes was drunk and on drugs, and he's had 57 times before that he's packed parachutes wrong, and the employer still keeps him packing parachutes, well, then they're going to have some liability. So the facts ultimately dictate what it will be, and those facts are determined by a jury and a jury alone.
All right. So
that's why you need lawyers. It's not black and white. It's always shades of gray.
That's what keeps the doors open and the lights on.
Now, there is civil liability that can be in a situation where you are encouraging or inciting people to break the law. So I think he's created a higher standard for himself because he has said, let's storm Area 51.
Yeah, he's like...
He has asked people to do something that he knows is illegal.
Yeah, it was like a call to action.
Yeah.
Do you think that... I know that at least 2 people were arrested because they...
Already
that have attempted to storm it earlier than tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
And do you think that he's going to face any legal consequences because of that? Because they obviously, I personally believe that they wouldn't have done it unless he brought it up in the first place.
Yeah, nobody would be at Area 51.
Yeah, nobody would even be at Area 51. Do you think he is still legally a little bit liable? And if he could face legal consequences?
So remember, in kind of that same vein that I'm talking about, that it's a 2-part analysis. One is, do you have a case? Do you have a viable claim? All right. And that is the standard of how that is measured is the court says, in the light most favorable to the person bringing the action against him, okay, is there a case? Meaning if everything the person says is true, okay, do they have a viable claim? All right. And I would certainly think that the person would have a claim that would get past that standard. That doesn't ultimately mean that he's held responsible because that's a higher standard, but certainly somebody could bring a case against him. Now, you do have the situation with a criminal act of that everybody has their own personal responsibility. So whether he would be liable to the person that broke the law That's a different question of whether he would be liable to the people that own Area 51 because he incited that. Those are two different causes of action with two different sets of elements and two different analysis that goes into that.
All right. Well, thank you for breaking that down for us, Sean. We appreciate that.
And much like every question that you ever ask a lawyer, the answer is always, it depends. And that's the thing about the law. You can want it to fit in these pretty boxes and you can want it to fit on these definitive lines, but rarely does it because it is so fact driven.
Everything's on a case by case situation.
Yeah.
Correct. And you can have a greater duty or greater liability if, let's say, he was putting this on a site that was only for underage teens. Well, you know that underage teens are more impressionable, and it was more foreseeable that they would follow your direction versus if you put it on a site for only people over the age of 30. So all of those different facts can really affect the amounts of liability. And remember, just because you're liable doesn't mean that ultimately the person suffered damages.
Right.
And it can be all the way from the extreme of, God forbid, somebody is hurt in this event tomorrow, all the way to the mundane of, I showed up for something because you told me to, and I had to spend all this gas, and then it didn't happen. Think about it in like a concert term.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Think about it like the fire festival, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So there is definitely a whole bunch of different elements. And then you have to specifically look at both the federal statutes that would apply because it's a federal property. And then you have to look at the state statutes that would apply because Area 51's in Nevada, right?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. I gotta make my plans. I gotta be there to be with my 2 million friends tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Better book a flight. All right.
I don't need a flight. I'm just gonna fly on my UFO. Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'll just wait for my abductors to pick me up and drop me off there again.
Hey, perfect. There you go. All right. Well, thanks again for calling in, and we'll look forward to visiting with you, I hope, very soon again.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll reconvene
for the great programming.
Yeah, thanks for that. And maybe we can reconvene next week and see what the results were of the Area 51 storming tomorrow, if it happens. So, all right.
And if we're betting the over or under whether somebody files a lawsuit, I'm going to go with
I'm inclined to agree with you. All right. Very good. Thanks, buddy.
Opinions expressed.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All righty. Take care. And we'll be right back, so stick with us.
back to WSTU 1450.
Nice job, Miranda.
All right.
Very good job.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so
we're continuing the conversation on UFOs.
just a little bit further. So recently, I read an article that the Navy has confirmed videos that did capture a UFO sighting.
Yes.
Now, before everyone gets alarmed, to define the term UFO, a UFO is an unidentified flying object. That does not mean that it is extraterrestrial. So just to limit the panic that might be caused from this article.
Yeah,
More
I feel like
excitement.
I feel like UFOs been kind of synonymous with just ships with extraterrestrial aliens in them.
But we really can't assume this.
It's literally just like any blurry thing on the screen that's flying through the air that they can't
identify. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's literally
It's in the name.
It's in the name. It's just in the name.
Speaking of in the name, we've got somebody identified that's on the line. How you doing, Bob?
A little under the weather. We got a
Oh,
little
sorry to hear that.
cold and allergy going, but I'm about to storm Bacardi 151 and get rid of it.
There you go. Okay.
What a
Clears up
trooper.
the sinuses.
What a trooper.
Stormtrooper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what brings you to our airwaves today?
Oh, I just heard a guy. I think I know that guy that was just on.
Yeah.
I think that was the first time I started doing this show, and 15 years ago was with that guy was the host.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's going to be heading for Washington like most lawyers soon.
Yeah.
But he'll be back because fishing on the Potomac is really not great.
No.
Yeah, I'm hoping for extraterrestrial, more intelligent life than we have on this planet at the moment, and come down and tell us what they learned. Probably all Republicans, which would be nice.
Okay. That's good. Very good. All right. So we got anything new in the news that you want to share with us?
So
what do you get going on now? We got what there's apparently Trump leaked something or said something to somebody, and to some Secret Service or somebody was standing there, and now they're going through the whistleblower program.
oh wow, I didn't even hear about that. I read an article.
Yeah. It blew up yesterday.
Did it talk about like what the leak had to do with it all?
No, there was no mention because apparently it was so top secret and all. And a lot of people on the Republican side, they're referring it back to, remember when Obama got caught there right before his second election, saying to Medvedev, the president.
Right. Talking about the
Putin,
hot mic incident. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tell Putin, hey, they were talking about reducing nuclear arms in the USA. Off the mic, he thought he was off the mic, and he said, well, tell Putin, I'm going to get reelected, and then I'll have a lot more flexibility. And nothing was raised about that. And apparently you can say whatever you want when you're president. And this is just another digging. I really wish the Democrats would just say, hey, look, this is amazing. Trump has really made this country a lot better, and he's trying to make it safer. And I wish they would really just jump on board and help us out, and stop acting like divide us racially, sexually, orientation-wise, whatever. Just let's all just make this country better. I'm tired of it.
Yeah. All right. So it's like a kumbaya moment. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right. Very good. All right. Well, hey, we got somebody else that's on the other line, so let's see if we can snag them, Bob. All right.
All right, guys. You have a good one.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
You too.
Appreciate the call. All right. All right. We've got John on the line, I believe.
Oh, this is Don.
Don. All right. Well, I was close. All right. How you doing, Don?
Doing good. Doing very well. I happen to know those three students you have.
Okay. Very good. Welcome.
Well, hello, Mr. Welch.
How are you?
Very
Good.
good.
Good. So what do you think of the quality of work that these guys do?
They are. I am so proud of them.
Aw.
They are my own, and I'm just proud of what they're doing and what's ahead of them. And the fact that we had a meeting yesterday with over 80 students at Southport that are involved in the program, and they're all taking the lead.
Very good.
So I just wanted to call in and tell them I was listening, and they're it's exciting. It's exciting to see students doing this. There's so much publicity going on about all of the wrong stuff
Yep.
that students are doing. This is
talking about the good
being
stuff.
produced in our schools.
Right. And just a little selfless promotion here. I will add that we record all these shows on YouTube so that you can grab them, like them, share them.
Yep.
And that will help increase our presence online and give us a broader audience. So that's a kind of a good thing.
Well, we took some of the YouTube footage from last year and sent it over to the state, and they are overwhelmed that this is the only youth and government group that is on a public radio station.
Yep.
And this delegation here at the Treasure Coast is the largest in the state.
Yep. We have the most power. Yep.
And it's due to the students. It's student run, student led.
Yeah.
And you can see it here, Frank, with these kids. So I'm just going by now, and we're heading down the road, and I just want to tell them how proud I am of them and what they're doing.
Well, thank you so much.
Yep.
And I got to tell you on a personal note, because I've been doing this for a few years now, and I got to tell you, I do different shows every day of the week, but I really have to step up my game to keep up with these guys on the Thursday show.
That's good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah.
All right.
We really want to thank you, Mr. Welch, because thank you for all the amazing opportunities you've given us. Honestly, the program would not be the same without you. We wouldn't even be on this radio show without you. You've just provided all of the. How many students are in our delegation? I would say,
over. Is it over 100 by now?
Definitely.
Well, we're kicking 200 with all 8 schools.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that's all because of you, Mr. Welch. So all of us were truly grateful for all the work that you've done. You've really left a legacy so far.
Well, I'm just more than happy to. So, hey, stop by to see me tomorrow, okay? I got something for you.
All right.
Very good.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks for calling, and thanks for listening.
Okay.
All right.
Take care. We'll keep listening.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, very cool.
Yep.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. Aw.
All right. So in other news,
Mhm.
I believe that we talked about this, I would say a couple months ago,
Mhm.
but there has been yet another mistaken siren and message for a ballistic missile that it has happened in Hawaii yet again. Yep. So basically a text went out saying ballistic missile in sight for Hawaii, seek immediate shelter. And there was a delayed time between, I would say, 20 minutes that they got the, this is just a false alarm, we're very sorry, text. And there were actual, sirens that went off on.
And when did this happen again, the second time?
The second time?
This most recent time?
I think it happened 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Yep.
I missed this in the news. I'm so
Yeah,
delighted
I
you
didn't
brought it.
see that until you brought it up.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it hasn't been more in the news.
Yeah,
Because
me too.
What news source did you see it on?
I think NBC, I believe so. But what really caught my attention, the headliner wasn't another ballistic missile. It was man had a heart attack because of false alarm. So I was like, oh my goodness. So I clicked on it and saw that because of the mistaken button that was clicked during one of the Honolulu Police Department training sessions, that a man, when this siren and the text went off, a man legitimately had a heart attack, and now he's filing a lawsuit. So we should have asked.
Perfect case for Sean. Well, maybe we'll get him on next week.
Next week
we
we'll
can
see
talk
about
to
it,
him
the
about that.
developments in that case.
See, he'd like that because then he can fly to Hawaii to take that case.
Oh yeah, that would
It's
be cool.
Much better than going to Area 51.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
More tropic, more
Better weather.
nice.
Yeah.
But basically, now the Honolulu Police Department is now attempting to not train their officers with the actual equipment. They're trying to implement training equipment because of this. And I'm surprised it took 2 times for this incident to happen.
You would think after the first time they'd be like, let's make some training buttons instead of
just
training with the actual buttons.
Yeah, no. A death scare once didn't do it. Now twice.
After somebody had a heart attack.
After somebody had a heart attack and is now filing a lawsuit. Yeah.
So it's the local police stations that have control of these?
Apparently, the article read that it was the sirens and text was triggered during an HPD training, which is the Honolulu Police Department training. So just training, I would assume, officers.
Yeah, I would have thought that that button would be controlled like a bit higher up on the
Yeah,
food chain
I'm quite
of
surprised, but
authority.
that's what the article said, and sticking to what the article says. Yeah.
All right, we've got John from Stewart. So we've had
All right.
Bob, Don, and John. So how you doing, John? Welcome aboard.
Okay, is it true? It's hard to believe, and nobody made a big deal about it, but I heard that Trump wanted to drop an atomic bomb on the hurricane in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. He said it would break up the hurricane.
Right.
Where did you hear that from? Just wondering.
Now that
I don't remember.
Yeah.
It sounds like maybe I dreamed it. It's
Yeah.
hard to believe.
yeah,
Because we get sand from Africa, don't we? Lands in.
yes, we do.
Yep.
As a matter of fact,
So
turns our
wouldn't all
sky.
that plutonium land in the United States and
Well,
we'd
they're
all
right.
die of cancer?
Well,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't-
a safe assumption.
Yeah, it would not be a good thing. That would be a safe thing to say.
Well, what about he wants to go back to the old light bulbs? He wants to do away with these light
Incandescent.
bulbs that were invented at the same time Obama was in the White
the
House.
CFCs,
So
it
they're
turned out to
bad,
be
right?
the CFCs that during the Obama administration they thought would be like a real good energy saving turned out to be not so much because they use a lot of mercury
Mhm.
and they have a lot of waste disposal problems and they don't have as long of a life as
Is that
people-
what those street lights are, like the mercury vapor lights?
no, that's a
No.
different kind of light altogether.
No, these bulbs last a lot longer than the old bulbs.
Right.
That's one of the good things about them.
Well, not as long as they're supposed to last. The ones that you really want to look into are the LEDs,
Mhm.
light emitting
Yeah.
diodes. Their luminescence is amazing. They use a lot less energy, even less energy than the CFCs,
Mhm.
and they don't contain mercury, so they're easier for waste disposal when they do go. But their life expectancy is phenomenal. It's off the charts. So so that would be if you're into lighting, that would be the way to go.
Yeah, but Trump is not into saving energy. He wants us to use more energy.
Okay.
He wants to open up all the national forests to oil and coal, and he wants to cut all the trees down in Alaska and open up the. Am I still on?
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, yes. Go ahead. Yeah.
And there's plenty of Alaska that was opened up to the oil companies,
Mhm.
and now he wants to open them all where the national wildlife sanctuaries are that they set up that
Protect the
You know,
environment.
for
yeah.
So he
for the
still
caribou
wants
and everything. He wants to open everything up.
So he still wants like to have national parks, but he just wants to open them up to allow
Well,
oil
national
companies to drill
forests.
there.
Yeah. Okay.
He hasn't tried to.
Honestly, I don't think that's exactly feasible in his part because I feel like there would just be an uproar within our population
Well, I
in the United
haven't heard
States.
any of this stuff.
Yeah.
It hasn't made the national news that I'm aware of. And I
Mhm.
watch all the news feeds.
Well, I read
but-
Sierra Club,
Oh.
Audubon magazines.
Yeah, well, that's kind
right,
of that's kind of
wing.
yeah, it's kind of
Them,
fringe
them
stuff. Yeah.
conservationists.
Yeah.
I went to Audubon conventions
Right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
before, and there are nothing but old Republicans there.
Yeah, Audubon's.
So-
Yeah, great. Yeah.
So I don't think they're putting out bad information that he wants to open up all the national forests to, in his lifetime, use
Right.
up all the energy, and
Yeah. All right.
it's
Well.
a shame.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing all that information.
Okay.
We're butting into our break time, but
All
thank you for
right,
calling.
break on.
Okay. All right. Thanks,
Bye.
John. All righty. And we'll be right back. So stick with us.
And welcome back to 1450 WSTU, the Treasure Coast Forum. And we will now start off with a little bit of a news minute. So, Operation 300 has started accepting donations of hurricane relief supplies again at Hangar Number 3 at Whitham Field between noon and 8 p.m., as well as volunteers to help sort out and package the deliveries to the, is it Abacos or Abacos?
Yes,
Abacos.
Abacos?
Mhm.
All right. They're asking for hygiene products, toiletries, first aid kits, tarps, batteries, flashlights, trash bags, construction tools, and chainsaws. Whitham Field is at 1845 Southeast Airport Road in Stewart. The city of Stewart is collecting non-perishable food items, first aid kits, dog food, both bagged and canned, tarps, and batteries daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at its public safety complex at 830 Southeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Charlie's Bar and Grill on Canner Highway is collecting canned goods and other relief supplies. Missionary Flights International and Operation 300 are asking for cash donations to help offset the cost of transporting supplies to the Bahamas. Just go to their websites for instructions. This news minute is brought to our WSCU 1450 radio audience by Martin County Currents, your alternative source of local news.
All right, very good. Good job.
Yay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, people get applause for reading it.
So, to continue just the discussion of the environment and such that we ended off with, tomorrow not only is the Area 51 potential raid, but also a climate strike. So recently on social media, in the past couple of days, I've seen lots of posts of students who will be skipping school to go to their local government buildings to protest in hopes that their local officials will actually acknowledge the climate problem and climate change problem that's currently happening.
I have a little conspiracy theory. What if the climate change strikes were created to draw people away from the Area 51 raid?
Oh,
Created by the
I
government.
didn't even think about
wow.
that.
Yeah.
That might be it.
I think so.
What if you
2 million people show up to the government buildings and not
Yeah,
Area
and not
51.
Area 51.
wow, then who would be
Interesting.
liable?
I don't know.
That's the
Have to get-
question.
There we go.
Yep.
More
That's the
work for
question.
Sean.
That's the question for today. So
But I'm sorry. Continue with what.
yeah,
you were
so
saying.
basically that's just another instance of social media getting the word out of like being politically active. But in my personal belief, I don't know how much a protest will do to actually like insinuate change.
Incentivize change.
Mhm.
You know, it helps sometimes. You know, if you do peaceful protests,
Mhm.
generally protests that are not peaceful don't get much public support.
Mhm.
Peaceful protests maybe after a bit, if you feel like you have a good cause and you can start actually rallying people to support your cause, then you can grow that support. So
Mhm.
sometimes that type of thing is actually pretty good.
Mhm.
And then that will translate to maybe voting, you know, where the real power is.
Yeah.
The actual ultimate solutions.
Mhm. I think it is powerful though to an extent because I've mainly seen this involving the younger generation, and I think that it's really important that kids are getting like politically active.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot easier to get politically active now
Mhm.
with the social media because
Yeah.
you can exchange information pretty much instantly about whatever you want to talk about that you're interested in.
Mhm. So my question is, I wonder if like the intentions are true for like kids skipping school to do these protests, because I know in the years past when there have been like climate strikes at our school and climate protests where like students were allowed to leave their classes for an hour to strike against climate change and such.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that I partaked in that about 2 years ago, but the majority of the students that were skipping class to supposedly strike for climate change were just skipping class. And
Yeah.
they just sat there, and when we asked for a moment of silence, the strike wasn't about climate change.
It was about gun control.
It was about gun control, yeah. So basically the majority of the students weren't even like involved or interested to like actually start change. They just wanted to skip class. So I wonder if we'll see that again this year.
Yeah, I mean, not to be a pessimist or anything, but I feel like with the attention span of kids these days,
Yeah.
they're usually not going to notice a problem unless it's put right in front of them.
Yeah.
Has to
Especially,
be a shiny object.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that definitely is a fatal flaw of our generation. Is
Yeah,
that
with
we're
so
not
much information, you can
Yeah.
only focus on something for so,
yeah
so
we're
long.
not really concerned with things unless they problems
Well,
unless
we
they're
are.
really
We are.
we are but
Yeah.
a majority, I would say a majority of people in our generation who aren't really politically active, they like don't truly care about problems that are happening in our world unless they directly relate to them at that time period.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like from an outside perspective, it's just kind of weird. Like, how do you just like not care?
Yeah, I don't understand. Like honestly, like it's the same thing with people that don't vote. I don't understand how people
Yeah.
don't vote.
Yeah.
It's like if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain. Exactly. And yet people still complain. Like
Right.
there's still people complaining about who we have in office
Well,
for different positions.
I like the common refrain is somebody should do something.
You could do something
Right?
You could
by
do something,
partaking
yeah.
in voting.
Right.
That is where we get our power
Right.
within our government.
Yeah, and people complain about problems, but like rather than complaining, how about like call up a local congressman?
Yeah,
or
because
something
that's
like
how
that.
you start the
Like,
change.
I know Frankie, his youth government bill. This is actually a YIG related thing. He actually his bill failed in committee because nobody really understood it.
Yeah.
So he went straight to Brian Mast and emailed
Wow.
him about his bill concept, and he's like, "How about you meet me in my office and we can talk about this?"
Wow. Do you
And
know
now-
if he actually met
Yeah,
him?
he went and talked to him, and they email
Wow.
regularly about it now.
Oh my goodness.
Do you
Yeah,
know what
so
the bill was?
it was about getting rid of overtime being factored into the pensions of like, I don't know if it was just like police and firefighters, but it might also be civil workers, because these people who work overtime, they're getting all this extra money factored into their pension that's just coming out of the Florida budget. But he's currently like regularly emailing with him about that. So that's
Wow.
proof that
He
you
should
can
have
talk to the
Frankie come
congressman.
in and read his bill.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, that'd
so
be
we can
interesting.
really digest that during the show.
Because I think
Yeah.
that is a good idea.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like that.
Yeah,
Cool.
we can try to have that happen
Yeah.
maybe next week. So in other news, recently I saw this video of basically how to get prepared for school and school supplies, produced and made by the Sandy Hook parents. So in this video, it originally started out with just normal school supplies, a kid holding like, oh, this is my backpack for the year. Oh, this is my folder for the year. These are my pens. And then the video took a very stark change and started, and like the beginning of the stark change was a student running from a shooter, and then it cut to a clip of a kid tying her jacket around two door handles to like basically create a barrier. And then another part of the video included a little girl, I would say about 8 years old, holding scissors prepared to like stab, and she's like, I'm like some sort of like
These scissors really come in handy.
yeah, these scissors really come in handy. And then the last was like having a little girl like, good thing that I brought my phone today, saying like, I love you, mom, like her last text to her mom before the shooter like walked in. And it was just a really just
Chilling.
and jaw-dropping video.
It's technically a scare tactic, but like I would say it's a responsible use of it.
Yeah,
no,
I think that it truly
think about
is.
like the when the Vietnam War was televised, that really decreased popularity for it because it brought the war to your living room. This brings the school shooting like to you, like in the reality of it.
Yeah, it's a good analogy.
Yeah,
very, very good.
Yeah, I think that honestly, I'm happy that this video was made because it truly like almost puts you in the position to experience. It's very, very thought-provoking to people that aren't
just like the juxtaposition of just like
parents.
being in school, like being a small child in school and like having somebody shooting at you.
Yeah.
Like being in a war zone.
Yeah, it's awful that we live in the times that students and even the parents have made this video, but it's nice to see that they are attempting to shed light on this very awful issue.
Topic.
Yeah, but very important topic. So I wonder in the upcoming days if this video will like grow in attention.
Right. Is it mostly a video? Is there an audio to it? I mean, is it something we could play on the radio?
No, it's just a video.
Visual.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
mainly visual.
All right. Okay. All right. We can't use it here.
Yeah, but I would highly suggest looking it up. Just look up Sandy Hook parent-made video.
All right. Good.
On school
We'll
supplies,
link to
and you'll
it.
see it. Yep.
Okay. Very good. Excellent. And we'll see you here again next week, right here on Treasure Coast Forum. We thank you for listening.